from Niners Nation and the Sprint Right Option podcast. Jason Aponte joining us on the Folsom Lake Honda Hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Jason, how are you this afternoon, my man?
I'm great. Thank you guys for having me. It's a wonderful time with free agency and the draft coming up.
Our pleasure. It is. It's speculation season in the NFL, as I call it. One thing we don't have to speculate on, Javon Hargrave is a 49er. I was surprised by that move, but the 49ers tend to make surprising moves. Did that catch you off guard?
For me, not so much. I mean, the 49ers have developed a bit of a pattern with going out on the first day and identifying their guy. Now, whether that guy turns out to be an impact player or not, I think this is the biggest name that they've gotten. But the names that you can come to mind are Malcolm Smith, Jerick McKinnon. Those didn't work out. But when you look at last year, it was Mooney Ward, and that worked out very well. So they had a plan, and they kind of stick to it. The first day is like they go after someone that they target. I just didn't expect it to be a name like that, which was probably the biggest free agent on the market.
Jason, I know we're not even to minicamp yet, but looking at the roster as currently constructed, where do you think the strength of this roster is, and where is it weakest?
It's offensive. You can't really improve more on Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, McCaffrey. Of course, the offensive line, there's still a little bit of a question at right tackle. Everything else is kind of set, especially with Jake Brendel being back. I would say right now the weakest is probably edge. I know that the 49ers are expecting a big jump from Drake Jackson, and I think we all believe that that'll happen. But having an established speed rusher to complement Nick Bosa, Armstead, and Hargrave would be impactful. And I think the 49ers are trying to get back to that 2019 formula of Buckner, Armstead, Bosa, and Ford. There is someone that's out there, I believe, that can fill that role while they wait for Drake Jackson to develop and also draft someone who can possibly be an impact player if they so need.
Do you wonder if, because obviously Javon Hargrave, a difference maker, and they needed some push up the middle, and they needed somebody next to Nick Bosa to give offensive lines and offenses as a whole something else to worry about. But we know that the salary cap is an issue that teams have to deal with in the NFL. And when you sign Javon Hargrave, you have to make tough decisions, like saying bye to a Jimmy Ward, an Emmanuel Mosley, a Charles Omenihu, Azeez Al-Shaair. Do you wonder if maybe they're giving up too much to try and bring in a Javon Hargrave type of player?
I don't think so. I think they kind of braved for these departures. I think that they would compete if the market was correct. But when you see what Omenihu got, when you see what Ebukam got, that clearly put them out there. What the 49ers have been known to do is just build the depth. You see T.Y. McGill come back. Kevin Givens has returned. You have rotational pieces. I would expect a Kerry Hyder or Jordan Willis to be brought back in, if not both. And then you get yourself that edge. So I think they were prepared for all of this. And the reason that they're able to make a move for Hargrave is because their quarterback room is the cheapest in the league. I mean, you look around, the going rate is about $25-30 million for, let's just say, Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And they're paying, I think, for all three, under $15 million at this point. So the way that they're able to move around and give more money to Hargrave is because their quarterback room is so cheap right now with all three.
Well, speaking of that quarterback situation, such as it is, what advice would you have for a 49er fan who's feeling conflicted over the signing of Sam Darnold?
If you're conflicted, I think it's because you realize that Sam Darnold has a ton of potential and you believe in the coach that can actually bring that out. But I do think that competition is healthy. I do think this is someone that Kyle Shanahan has coveted for a while. There's been a report out there that he tried to send a first-round pick to the Jets for Sam Darnold. Let's just say thank you that didn't happen, and he got him this way. But competition is good for either way, and it does kind of feel like a Geno Smith situation in Seattle, in which you kind of take a shot on a guy. You still have your Russell Wilson. You still have the guy that you believe in, and if you do get into those traits, we have to remember that the 49ers are the best at getting guys open. Debo's wide open. Ayuk's wide open. Kittle's wide open. We know Sam has the tools. I think it comes down to decision-making. But I feel that competition is good. And if Trey Lance is what you think he is, if Brock Purdy is what you think he is, then there shouldn't be anything to worry about.
Let me ask you this. It's a two-part hypothetical question. And that's very meta, but that's how we roll here.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. Right. So, do you think there's open competition between Sam Darnold and Trey Lance to start the season? Because we know about Brock Purdy's injury situation, and best case scenario, he's ready by September. So I'm assuming somebody other than Brock Purdy is starting week one. Do you think there's a chance Sam Darnold wins that job from Trey Lance? And whether it's Darnold or Trey Lance, do you think it's possible either of those guys performs well enough that even when Purdy is healthy, he doesn't necessarily get his starting job back?
Ooh, man, it is Friday. Okay, so the first part of this, the first part of this is I definitely believe it's a competition. But if
Okay.
you and I and many 49er fans believe Trey Lance is what he is supposed to be, then he should win this, right?
Sure.
And I do think that there is a chance that if Trey Lance beats out Sam Darnold, which I expect, and I don't want to say I fully expect, but I believe in his talent and I believe in the kid. But if Trey Lance goes out there and becomes what they thought they were getting with the third pick, then you make it awfully hard to turn it right back over to Brock Purdy. But I will say this, being at the combine, listening to, John Lynch speak, listening to the team speak about Brock Purdy, you're going to have a hard time trying to assuage this locker room to not play Brock Purdy. George Kittle was on a podcast saying, I don't know how you bench a guy who's never lost a game. In the NFC Championship game, he was hurt in the third play, so he said he didn't really attribute it to that. But I do think there is a way that Trey Lance makes that decision incredibly hard, and I think that's what the 49ers actually would like to invite is Trey Lance starts to scratch that surface, and now you have a difficult decision to make. If you have to turn it right back over to Brock Purdy, then you've got a bigger issue, I believe.
Okay, Jason, the Jimmy G era in San Francisco, it's finally officially over. So if you had to sum up the Garoppolo era as a 49er quarterback in, I don't know, 3 words or less, how would you do it? What would you say?
Ups and downs. But I do think that 49er fans kind of forget the time before Jimmy Garoppolo, meaning CJ Beathard, Brian Hoyer, and those years in between with Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula. And Jimmy was a shot in the arm, stabilized the organization, gave fans hope, electrified Levi's Stadium, and they won a bunch of games. Now, obviously, we know that it didn't result in the ultimate. And you said 3 words, and here I am just like babbling on. I'm sorry. But
no, you're right. You gave the 3. This is totally acceptable. Yeah, totally acceptable. Yeah.
I just feel that Jimmy Garoppolo has been a punching bag for a long time. With people losing sight of what he brought to this team and how many games that he did win, I'm choosing to remember the good times, and there were ups and downs. I'm choosing to remember the wins. There were a lot of great signature wins. My favorite personal Jimmy Garoppolo game, and I know everybody says it's the Saints, but it's got to be that Week 18 game against the Los Angeles Rams, battling back and with the season on the line, with the injury being fresh, not knowing if he was going to play all week, and being able to come back and win that game. That is my all-time favorite Jimmy Garoppolo moment, and that's why I'm going to choose to remember him.
Yeah, honestly, I think mine would be better than believed. To your point of Jimmy's time here, I thought he did a lot of really good things ultimately.
Jason Aponte, Niners Nation, our guest for a couple more minutes here on Cattles and Ramie. Actually, last one for you, Jason. Free agency, not in the rear view now, but the major moves have been made. The next big postmark on the NFL calendar will now be the NFL draft. I don't remember exactly what the number was. I want to say 11 draft picks they now have with the compensation picks. Any chance you think they try and stack up a couple of those and move up, or is this about restocking the cupboard and rebuilding that depth that you talked about to start this interview?
It's a little bit of both, I think, at this point. I think the 49ers are in a spot where there are some impact edge rushers that can be brought in on 1-year deals that would come cheap because they're ready to chase a ring. The one name that I keep bringing up is Justin Houston from Baltimore, was used as a situational pass rusher last year, 11 sacks. His snap share went down, and somehow he had more pressures. He's somebody who you can add in. Now, if you have a Justin Houston, you add to that edge, your needs in the draft actually become fewer. Now, you sign Isaiah Oliver, nickel corner. You still have Samuel Womack. I would like to see them add one more cornerback to this secondary. But if your needs are fewer because of free agency, now you can stack up. And let's not forget, for the first time in a long time, 49er fans, they have a first round and second round pick next year. Imagine that. So there is, on top of the 5 comp picks that they got from all the departures and hires, all of the 11 picks that they have now, they certainly have the ammo to go up and identify an impact player in the second round and move up if they so choose.
That's Jason Aponte. Check out Niners Nation and the Sprint Right Option podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Jason Aponte 2103, joining us on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Jason, really appreciate the time and the insight, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me, and have a great day.
Appreciate it. There's Jason Aponte of Niners Nation and the Sprint Right Option podcast. Quick break.